Let's see what's out there.
Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There, a weekly video stream and podcast currently focused on Star Trek Picard Season 2, which is available to watch on Amazon Prime and Paramount Plus. I'm Keith Isles and I am joined by
Pete Neely.
And we are both film and TV enthusiasts. And today we are going to have a spoiler-filled conversation around episode 2 of season 2, Penance. So here we go, Pete. We're back again.
We're back again. This is awesome.
Back another week. If it's your first time here and you're finding us on YouTube, then welcome. Please do, if you're enjoying this, consider giving this video a like, subscribing to the channel, and if you hit the bell icon, you will find you'll get notifications every time we put an episode out. We do have lots of other content as well, and if you happen to be listening to us on your favorite podcatcher, please consider giving us a review. It all helps the channel. So yes, we're back again with another week of Picard, and I'm sure we've got loads to get into, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, tons.
Before we did, though, just something this week, a little bit of, if you like, Trek news. And I don't know whether you saw this, but there was actually a trailer that went up this week, a teaser trailer for Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which is coming in May. Pete, did you catch that trailer?
Well, here in the US on Paramount Plus, when you play the episode, it is the intro. I actually saw 2 different ones, I think. Yeah, you can't watch Picard in the US without getting exposed to the Strange New Worlds trailer.
Well, I wouldn't expect anything less. They've got to advertise this stuff, right? But are you feeling excited for Strange New Worlds, though? Have you got a particular take on this?
So I don't want to watch too much. I don't want to read too much. I just want to go in with an open heart and open mind, as it were. But I will say that the trailers, because I couldn't avoid them, they look pretty good. They're visually interesting, and they talk about sort of like what I would consider core Roddenberry Star Trek, and so if that's what they're going to deliver, I'm into it. But I do want to wait and see. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I'm very keen for this as well. I think if it's done right, it could be quite interesting and compelling. But we've talked in length on previous episodes about sometimes the problem with prequels and what the inherent problems that come with that. But then again, I think I do like the casting. I really like Anson Mounts, Ethan Peck, Rebecca Romaine, or those fantastic. And it looks like it could delve into some stuff. But I'm like you, I'm trying not to watch too much of it or read too much about it because, I want to be surprised so that when we do cover it, which I'm sure we will on the stream and on the podcast like we're doing now, it'll be fresh. I won't have any opinions swaying my thoughts on it or anything like that. So in fact, I've realized May this year is going to be a busy month for Let's See What's Out There, because not only have we got obviously Strange New Worlds following this season of Picard, but we've also got the Obi-Wan Kenobi Star Wars series coming to Disney Plus as well in May, so which no doubt we'll cover in some form on this show, I'm sure.
And don't forget, you've also got Moon Knight coming to Disney Plus in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
For Marvel. Yeah. Tons of stuff.
A real first world problem, as I always say. We are lucky with the amount of content that we've got, film and television. But anyway, let's get on and talk about this episode. But before we do, it's time to engage.
Okay. Earth has been mostly used up, but maybe so has Q. He isn't well, but he can still smack around Picard. Q says this is Picard's penance, and in this reality, Picard is a brutal general, having defeated General Martok, Gul Dukat, Sarek, and Laris, and he displays some of their skulls in his office. His android valet says it's time to get ready to go to the Eradication Day celebration. And now we meet President Annika, R7 of 9, equally confused. She's in charge of the Confederation with her husband at her side. She finds Rios is attacking Vulcan on La Serena, but calls him back to Earth. Meanwhile, Elnor is part of a resistance in Okinawa, blowing up buildings with a friend, but don't get too attached because troops swarm in and kill everyone. But Elnor is saved by the Chief, who turns out to be R. Raffi. And Raffi says they will question Elnor, not shoot to kill as ordered. Next, we find Dr. Girardi and an animated cat overseeing the future prison specimen storage. And the star occupant of that is the Borg Queen. She knows the timelines are messed up, but can't figure it out. Now that we know who all the players are, we need to get them together, and so we do. And we get some brief, confused planning. We decide that this isn't an alternate reality. It's time travel, changing the present. So we need to go back to 2024 in Los Angeles, find the Watcher, find the Watcher. Some minor attempts to stand up to the cruelty of this world. Then there's some complications. There's some speeches about human purity. And then it's time for Picard to decapitate the Borg Queen for the rabid masses. Instead, they all get beamed up to the Rios ship, Borg Queen included, and plug in the Borg Queen to do the sun slingshot calculations so they can go back in time. But then, the first gentleman of the Confederation beams onto the ship with a security crew, and we'll have to see what happens next week for the Magnificent Space 7.
Very, very good. Nice and concise. A lot to unpack in this episode. Quite a lot happened, didn't it? So
yeah, it was. Well, I have thoughts about that.
All right. Well, we will get into that. But before we do, it's time to look at the production and make it so. Sorry, I selected the wrong slide. There we go. Trying to do things for an audio-visual medium now. It keeps things fun, doesn't it? So, okay, so production credits. Once again, this episode was directed by Douglas Arnio-Koski, who we spoke about last week. And writing credits, again, we spoke about last week. Akiva Goldsman, who's also the showrunner, with Terry Matalas. I believe also Michael Chabon, the other co-creator of the series, was involved in the story here. But there was also a story credit for Christopher Monfetti. Now, I couldn't find a picture of Christopher anywhere online, but Christopher's credits, writing-wise, go back to, he wrote the horror thriller feature film Abattoir back in 2016. Then he got involved in the TV show 12 Monkeys, which is no doubt where he worked with Terry Matalas previously. Worked on Night Flyers, 911, and has now moved on to Star Trek Picard. So that's good to see. And I just wanted to talk about a couple of the guest stars outside of our main 6 or 7 main characters. So one of our predictions last week was, would we see Annie Wershing return as the Borg Queen? And we did indeed. So it's good to see her reprising her role from a appearance last season as the Borg Queen. Annie's filmography is quite extensive. I first actually remembered seeing her in playing Rennie Walker in 24, one of the 2010 season of the show 24. But she's guest starred in a lot of shows, but has been regular in shows such as Dallas, Revolution, Intelligence, Extant, Castle, The Vampire Diaries, Timeless, Runaways, and The Rookie. Oh, and also Bosch. So yeah, a lot of acting credits to her name. As I said, great to see her back here playing the Borg Queen once again, and
A lot
also
of
playing
Nathan
the.
Fillion. Sorry.
Sorry,
A lot
what
of
was that?
Nathan Fillion.
A lot of Nathan Fillion crossovers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then playing the first magistrate in this episode is John Briones. Now, if you recognize that name, there is a good reason why, and it's connected with Star Trek. So in real life, he is the father of Isa Barones, who played Soji in season 1 and also did appear last week, although interestingly does not appear in the episode this week. So John is her dad in real life. My God, I wish I was born into show business. But yeah, again, quite a body of work here. Some more recent credits would include things like Designated Survivor, American Horror Story, Ratchet, the series, and The Rookie as well. So he's appeared in quite a few shows as well, and it's good to have him appear here as the first magistrate and get a guest star on here. So those were the sort of notable ones I thought I'd mention this week. As I said, every week we will try and cover a different aspect of the production and talk about, people both in front of and behind the camera. But yeah. But I don't know about you. I think it's time for a drink now, don't you? Have you got your drink ready?
Oh, it's empty. I messed up. But yes.
That's no good. See, I've even got my Star Trek mug here. So we're ready to go with some tea, Earl Grey, hot. So this is where we look at and talk about various Easter eggs, connections, references to other material, etc. And this one's absolutely packed with them. Do you want to kick things off, Pete?
Yes. Okay. So I think I have these in order as they happened.
Okay.
Let's see.
Very organized.
Yeah. And then you can go in and tell me everything I missed. But okay. So first one is that Q says through a mirror darkly as he walks into Picard's study. And that is the title of one of the Deep Space Nine mirror episodes, I believe, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a quote from Alice in Wonderland originally, but there's a couple of connections actually. There's a mirror universe episode, as you said, called Through the Looking Glass, which is a Deep Space Nine episode. But there's also a Enterprise 2-part episode called In a Mirror Darkly, which is obviously a great episode. So it kind of straddles those two.
Okay, so I got that wrong, but
You didn't get it wrong. You just no, it's just one of those things that's sort of multi-layered, and it's very nerdy of me to even know that.
Nope.
I don't know whether you noticed as well, but he did also drop the title Yesterday's Enterprise as well.
Oh, that's right. I knew when I was taking my notes on my second pass through, I was like, I thought he had another one, but I didn't catch it the second time through. Okay. Awesome. What else do we have? Oh, great. Okay. So this is specifically called out as not the mirror universe, but it is close, right?
Yes.
But like the comm badges. Anyway, that's that. There is a reference to Spock, right, where they say Sarek's son was there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, I caught that. They reference the Kirk slingshot maneuver towards the sun to do the time travel. And I heard Brent Spiner his voice in one of the shots.
Oh, really?
Oh, did you not see that?
No,
There's
I didn't. Please tell.
there's a wide shot right before the big celebration, right?
Okay.
Where Picard's supposed to kill the Borg. It's like a wide shot of the town, the city, and there's like a holographic statue turning.
Okay.
And what you hear is I mean, I recognized it as Brent Spiner's voice. And it was the character saying something like, a pure human race is destined to rule the galaxy or something like that, right?
Nice.
And so I immediately thought of the Noonien or the Soong family, right? And
Yeah.
the Soong family that we see in Star Trek Enterprise, which is sort of, big into eugenics and right,
Yeah.
developing perfect humans, so superhumans. Yeah, that's what I caught.
For sure. Cool. No, I totally missed that one. I'm sure I missed loads of them. I've got a few visual references here. So obviously after Q's, done those, if you like, title drops with Yesterday's Enterprise and Through a Mirror Darkly and whatever. We see a lot of when he goes into Picard's study, we see a lot of weapons, disruptors, different rifles and weapons that have been used in various Star Trek episodes. We also see the torchbearer Klingon from the beginning of Star Trek Discovery. The one that Burnham first encounters. And then he name drops a couple of or two or three of the skulls in Picard's collection, which I kind of like, which is rather sick. So he says that he's got the Guldakat skull, who's obviously the Cardassian from Deep Space Nine. He's also got the Klingon Martok, which was a recurring character in Next Gen and Deep Space Nine. And of course, he's got Sarek's skull as well. And as you've rightly said, he mentions that they were he was executed in front of his wife and son outside the Vulcan Science Academy. So of course, he had the Spock reference there. It looked like there were some other skulls. One of them looked like it was the shape of a Ferengi. So I guess that it may be a Ferengi skull.
Yeah. And I thought I saw an Andorian skull too. I thought I saw some antenna.
Quite possibly. It was that whole room was just filled with Easter eggs. In terms of verbal ones, General Sisko gets a name drop. In when I want to say Seven, but she's not Seven in this. She's Annika, the president. She references a meeting with General Sisko, so we get another name drop there. We also get the Jurati's program is called Spot 73, which I'm guessing is a reference to Data's cat there, Spot from Star Trek The Next Generation. You've rightly mentioned Slingshot, which was obviously used a couple of times in the original series and obviously in the film Star Trek The Voyage Home, which is, I guess, going to definitely come into play. Other little things I noticed is obviously, I put a picture there, Picard's self-portrait, or not self-portrait, sorry, portrait hanging up there. He's got the black uniform, but it's very similar to the Wrath of Khan era uniforms, only with the different badge, etc. And of course, they've gone from naval ranking to military warlike ranks with generals and colonels and things of that nature. Obviously, we've got the Confederation rather than the Federation here. So a load of stuff there. And one thing I just wanted to, I want to give a plug just because I think this is so good. So there's a scene where you hear Picard's looking back over some holograms of his history in this particular alternate reality or whatever we want to call it here. And you have essentially the Star Trek mission statement, but a dark version of the mission statement. And I've got to give a shout out to, our friends at Star Trek Continues, Vic Mignogna and their team, because one of the episodes they did was called The Fairest of Them All, which was a direct sequel to the original series Mirror Mirror. And he begins that with the opening credits and does indeed do an alternate dark universe mission statement at the beginning, which was actually quite spookily similar. Wasn't exactly the same, but it was similar. So anybody that doesn't know Star Trek Continues, I really do say, as a Star Trek fan, if you're a Star Trek fan, check it out. It is a fan series, but it's incredibly well made, and it's really well written and produced. And I personally, in my head canon, think of it as season 4 of the original series, or year 5 of the 5-year mission. It dovetails nicely into what will be Star Trek the Motion Picture. And I don't know, they're not paying me or anything. I just thought I'd give them a plug. I put a link down below in the show notes as well to a podcast that we did previously for Movie Heaven, Movie Hell, where Vic comes on and talks about fan films. So I just thought I'd drop that in there. Hope awesome. You don't mind me doing that plug for them, but I think it's well worth a mention.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think there's loads of other Easter eggs in this and connections, but those were the ones I spotted for now. Cool. Right. Well, shall we move on to the next bit? Because I think we got some stuff right last week, didn't we? Let's just move on. Okay, there are 4 lights, which is our speculation, and there were a couple of things, weren't there, last week that we got sort of right? Yeah.
I think we both said it wasn't likely to be the mirror universe, and it wasn't. What else did we say? I don't remember.
We said the Borg Queen would probably come back.
Oh yeah.
Whether she'd be played by Annie Wershing, which we've confirmed in this episode. Absolutely,
she was. I just wrote down one big prediction.
Yep.
Which is that the Watcher is going to be Guinan.
I like that. Yes.
So that's my thinking. That Guinan's going to show up in San Francisco in 2024 because it's not that far off,
Yes.
We know she was on Earth a couple hundred years before that, so she might as well be there.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. I've still got the picture of Guinan and Q up there because I think there's definitely going to be some connection there. I'm sure we didn't set Guinan up in the first episode just as that cameo. Hopefully there's going to be more there. And obviously the Borg Queen is coming to play. I think this could be quite interesting because we could have Q, the Borg Queen, and Guinan all kind of heavily involved in resolving this and so, in this confrontation. I'm also wondering, I put a little shot in there from yesterday's Enterprise, and the reason I put that is, again, that was an alternate timeline, an alternate reality, because of the events in the past having been changed and affecting the present. And when the Enterprise C went back into the rift, everything went back to normal and they had no recollection of that timeline. And I'm just wondering whether this series will be kind of one of those things. We've obviously got is it six characters? The 6 of them?
7 with the Borg Queen.
7, yeah. Okay.
Borg Queen is 7.
Yeah. So, they're all aware of the fact that they're not where they're supposed to be, even though history says different at that point. And I'm wondering if, once everything's resolved, whether or not it will just reset itself. A bit like that. What I mean is we've had loads of different time travel, mirror universes, alternate realities, all of this sort of thing in Star Trek over the years. And rules wise, it looks like they're going to be following the same sort of time travel rules as they did in yesterday's Enterprise, which would make sense, I guess. But yeah, inevitably we're going to end up, because they pretty much set it up, didn't they? We're going to end up a couple of years in the future at 2024 California, which they mentioned. So I'm wondering whether we're going to get some Star Trek 4 vibes here, and Elnor have to wear a beanie or something to hide his ears. And whether they're going to sort of lean into some of the comedy that can come with that. And of course, this is still 30 years before First Contact, isn't it?
Yeah.
2024. So
it's going to be curious to see what timeline they go with, right?
Because they're going to be in the eugenics wars or something.
Yeah, right. Like I mean, if you go with the First Contact timeline, 2024 is like kind of the collapse of civilization, right? Or right before it. I mean, the eugenics wars started in the 1990s, if I'm right. I think I looked that up once. I remember thinking we'd passed it already.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like it. So are they going to do that, or are they going to, sort of scrap that all and go for I don't know, right? What's the?
Yeah, well, I mean, the filmmaker sort of cynic in me says that they've spent a hell of a lot of money on the visual effects in the last couple of episodes, so they need it to be cheaper to produce by setting it in contemporary California.
No. I had that exact same thought, right? Or my first thought was like, are we going to see people walking around with like COVID masks or something, right? Like one step up, right? As they like try to process that through the eyes of Star Trek.
Wow.
But yeah, I sincerely hope they don't do that.
No. To be fair, Picard's jacket does look quite contemporary. He could get away with that. He could get away with that more than Kirk in his maroon
Admiral uniform.
Anyway, shall we? I think we need to draw a line, right? So let's do it. So, Pete, let's get into what we really thought about this episode then.
Okay.
What did you think? Did it surprise you, or was it sort of par for what you were expecting?
It was par for what I was expecting. I think that my overall impression of this episode is that it was a little bit slow.
Okay.
And like it was a little bit like I think they tried to build up tension or something that didn't need to be there, right? Like I felt like this episode could have been 2 or 3 scenes. And there was, I think, some filler in this episode because they thought like this was the right place to end it. But we got everyone together. We found out who from our timeline was in this timeline, or however you want to say it, and I could have used it to be a little bit faster, because I think like we got pretty quick that it was kind of a mirror universe reboot, if you will, right? Where
it was kind of they've never had a mirror universe with Picard before, and this is kind of the closest we're probably going to get to seeing that. But I am actually glad that it's not the mirror universe, because that's really ground that's quite well trodden now, I feel.
Well, I mean, they couldn't have done it in the mirror universe because the Terran Empire collapsed in DS9, right?
There you go. and we're way ahead of
Ugh.
that now. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's I kind of like what they've done with it, but because what's interesting, and again, the first episode was kind of this as well. I always straight away now look at what the length of the episode is, because we get, we have so much stuff that's like sort of sub 35 minutes these days, and even season 1 of Picard did that on a few episodes. And it's nice that this was 54 minutes long. It was like you felt like you were getting nearly an hour of television. But yeah, I agree with you. It did feel like it was it didn't move along as much as one expected it to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. There was just so much stuff where I was like, okay, we got it. Let's go. Right. Like, and they kept trying to make Girardi funny. Like, okay,
Yeah.
she's the funny one. And I was like, ooh, guys, come on.
Yeah.
And then that sort of like, it just fell flat for me. And
Yep.
and it like made it really awkward then when the Borg Queen like stops and pauses and singles her out as like, what being alone is like. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like that's hard right turn.
Yeah. Definitely one of my nitpicks for this episode is it was way too quippy for its own good. I thought.
Yeah.
It's almost like, and I guess it's the modern vernacular it's fitting into. It's a little bit like we talked last season about profanity in Star Trek, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like shows now are trying to do what the MCU do, and the MCU has all these snarky, quippy character exchanges. And of course, there's always been humor and character exchanges in Star Trek, but it's not been quite like the way they do it now. And this is particularly apparent with Raffi and Agnes. Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of that quippiness.
And having Patton Oswalt as the cat.
Oh, of course, yes, that was another vocal cameo. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
I was just like, okay, I get it. But I think another word for it, and one of the words that is my notes, is heavy-handed. And it just started to feel a little heavy-handed. And so I would have liked a little bit more speed and a little bit more subtlety. I think they landed on stuff a little too hard and left it there a little too long.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. And it's funny how we've ended up back on the La Soretta, with the crew again. It's
yeah, and that's like one of my quips is like, why is that La Soretta? Like, wasn't even a Starfleet ship. Like, what sort of, that's like a mirror universe thing that always drove me bananas. Is it like, this doesn't make any logical sense? Why would there be what was essentially a freighter fighting as like a colonel's ship, and he's the only one on it?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. No, that did seem a bit strange. Yeah, there was a few odd choices. But yeah, it was still kind of fun. I mean, there was all that when the trailer was released, there was a lot of comments and backlash about the fact that Seven, that Jerry Ryan didn't have a facial.
I missed all that.
But again, it makes total sense in the context of what the story they're telling here. So
you could not tell the same story if she showed up with Borg implants.
No, exactly. I'll tell you something as well. It's funny, isn't it? Watching Picard really makes you realize as well, about aging, but it really makes you realize how the voice ages also. That's one of the things, even when Patrick Stewart was trying to sort of deliver the hard-ass general stuff, it just didn't have that same zip anymore, did it? Sadly.
So I have a thought about that,
Okay.
and I'm not sure I'm right, but my read on that is I think Patrick Stewart is doing an old age voice in this.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
Yeah, it's something that like I felt like I don't know, I might be wrong. I haven't listened to him just talking normally in a while. It's been a couple years since he used to post stuff on Instagram where he would, videos with him and his wife or whatever. And it just sounds so much different than this Patrick Stewart that I was like, is he like playing it up? Is he trying to play up the old man Picard thing?
Oh, really?
And then it's like, well, and then that like really is a grinding clash with General Picard, the character. And I think even Q made fun of it, right? Saying like he cut off their heads with a withered hand. And I was like, yeah, I think I've said it on this podcast before, but I saw Patrick Stewart play Othello in a race mirrored play in Washington, D.C. in 98 or 99. And he was just as unconvincing then as a general. And the 30 years in between have not helped. So it's just some poor choices. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know whether that is intentional or whether, because I obviously, yes, Picard is the character is supposed to be a lot older than
Yeah.
but the other thing that was interesting, and again, I don't know why they keep throwing this in, but Q mentioned about Golda Cat being responsible for his synthetic body in this alternate reality, and it's like, okay, they've kind of like last week they kind of brushed it over slightly, but this week they've specifically mentioned it again, and it's like, okay, don't know what I don't know what the point of that is. Basically, is what I'm saying. It's just kind of.
So my note on that was that is that's what we talk about, the fan service versus the callback or Easter egg. I think that was fan service. I think that was somebody in a writer's room was like, hang on a second. If we send this Picard back into another, timeline, and it's the same Picard, he's going to have a synthetic body, or he's not, right? And so somebody in a writer's room was like, oh, the nerds out there are going to kill us because it's a synthetic body. And somebody was like, I got it. Well, let's just say Gul Dukat gave it to it, and then
Yeah.
yes.
The thing is, because Q has manipulated this anyway, it doesn't really matter, does it? But
if 7 of 9 has theoretically a different body because she doesn't have her Borg implants, Picard could have a different body.
Yeah. No, I just thought that was a bit of an odd thing to cover there. Of course, the other thing that sort of makes me laugh now is, they reference, as you would, he actually name drops Jim Kirk and, the fact they had Spock and all of this. But again, I might have this wrong, but I know it was very much a Gene Roddenberry thing. In season 1 of The Next Generation, there's one episode where they refer to something that happened on the Enterprise 5-year mission from the original series, and they kind of passed it off as if, oh yeah, that was, and on that Enterprise, somebody called Kirk was in command or something like that, like they weren't well known, which of course they would be because they saved the planet more than once. But yeah, I don't know, that was obviously that was pre pre some of the movies, wasn't it? First season of Next Gen was 87. What was it? Voyage Home was 86, but I don't think there was a lot of crossover.
No,
Roddenberry.
Voyage Home was 84, wasn't it?
Was it? Oh, okay.
Undiscovered Country was like 86, I thought. Wait, sorry.
There's people going mad right now.
Yeah.
Their streaming device.
Oh, you're right. Search for Spock was 84. Voyage Home was 86. Final Frontier 89. Undiscovered Country 91. Wow.
Yeah, but then, off. But Roddenberry was kind of, in charge of those first season or two of Next Gen, and I think obviously the movies were at that point Harve Bennett Productions and stuff, so there wasn't a lot of sharing. Anyway, I don't even know why I brought that up. It was just something that sprung in my head, like things do sometimes, strangely. But yeah, I mean, there was some nice moments in this episode. One of the things I didn't notice so much last week, and it really kind of hit home this week, was Jeff Russo, we've mentioned before, does the fabulous theme music to this. And last week I kind of thought, it's different. They've done different theme music, but I realized when I watched this one that it's actually the same theme. It's just a darker version of the theme. It's a darker version of the melody, just like the opening credits are they're inspired by last season's, but again, they're a bit darker and reflective. And that's quite good, because again, our show Enterprise, when they did the mirror episodes, they did actually change the music out for that, as if you were watching that episode in the mirror universe. I know this isn't the mirror universe, by the way. This is an alternate reality, so I get that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes now with some time travel and whatever. But yeah, it was kind of fun. As I said, it was a bit quippy and
very quippy.
They all kind of managed to get together and accept the situation very quickly. I don't know whether you thought that. They all sort of ended up in the same place.
I mean, it was one of the things that sort of drove me nuts about it, was that it was so handily wrapped up, and then it wasn't and then it still kept going for scenes that I didn't quite understand the point of. I was like, why wouldn't we just, if you're skipping over the fact that you've brought Elnor from Okinawa to San Francisco in a heartbeat, and Rios from Vulcan back to Earth, like, why do we need these scenes of, breaking Elnor out? Like, you already have him with Raffi. And yes. Why did they have to beam into the place only to then not be able to beam out because they shut down beaming capabilities? It felt sloppy to me. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Fair enough. Yeah. Any other things that you specifically want to talk about or mention? Sorry.
We probably should have talked about this in predictions, but what about Q's illness?
Yes. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Again, if we're going to believe anything Q actually tells us. Yeah, I don't know. I thought Q was actually going to feature in this episode a lot more than he did. He kind of set the scene and then buggered off, didn't he?
Yeah, but I actually so I think that's it's the right thing for Q to not be there for the let's get the gang together and then head off, because in some of those Q episodes of Next Generation, like, Q would show up and then he wouldn't check back in until Act 2 or 3, right? When stuff was in process. And so I think the problem here is that this episode was just too long, and this should have been like 1 or 2 acts of, okay, we're here, we know where we're at, let's get together, let's get out of here. And then we'd have Q checking back in as they slingshot themselves into a sun or whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, because there's something, I'm going to say here that sort of, even though I'm agreeing with you, it's kind of contradictory to that as well. Is obviously next week, well, we ended on a cliffhanger where there's the phasers on them, but I assume that they're gonna, with the help of the Borg Queen, they're gonna do their slingshot and they're gonna end up in 2024 Los Angeles or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I almost felt, even though this in one hand felt a bit drawn out, as you said, but I almost felt like they could have done with another episode. They could have done more in this version of the world before jumping away from it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
think
suggesting standing around and being quippy and trying to
I think
transport.
I read you. Yeah, you're saying that they should have, like, they set up this playground, and instead of just using it for a couple of quick jokes or heavy-handed scenes, right? Of, like, throw off lines about the purity of the human race. Um, they could have really explored it more, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have, seen the sort of ramifications of this. I think we could have spent more time with Picard, learning the history of what he'd done and what had happened, rather than the sort of, getting all of the rest of them involved straight away. But I don't know. It's a tricky balance, right? In these things, and I don't even know how many episodes we've got in this season. I'm not too sure.
I don't know either. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, last season we felt that they kind of didn't really pay it off. So
And they wasted episodes last season too.
Yeah. One thing as well that I thought you used the term heavy-handed, and I thought that this was very heavy-handed, was, and again, they were trying to make it funny, but the way they dealt with the fact that Seven was married to the first magistrate, and all of this, and kind of, Raffi had to give all sort of quippy lines about that and whatever, and it was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, that just felt a bit kind of could have been done
Yeah.
better, I think.
In terms of quippy lines, like, I would have loved if Elnor then turned to her and was like, "You almost killed me. Like, obviously things are different in this place."
Yeah.
What's worse? Marrying somebody else or killing someone? Yeah.
Yeah.
Some sort of perceived infidelity or murder. Which one do we think is worth really calling out? Yeah.
Absolutely. So any other bits you want to mention before we go on to our rank pin rating system?
No, I think I've called out my feelings here suitably.
Okay. So, like we said, for this season, we are doing our rank pin ratings and giving them, pips to the episode. Now, I'm intrigued. So, where are you scoring it this week, Pete?
Again, I am sort of torn here, but last week I gave it a Lieutenant Commander Data, and I think this week I'm going to take a step back and give it a Lieutenant. Who was a Lieutenant on? I can't think of anyone who had the rank of Lieutenant, but yeah. Yeah, I didn't love it. I think that there was Uhura. Okay, sure. I'll give this an Uhura as a lieutenant, in that it really needed to work on its communication skills. Or a Lieutenant Barclay, in that it was living in a fantasy world. But there was just a lot that could have been improved. And while I liked a lot of it, and I do got to say, visually, this show is still compelling to watch. I think the movement of the show works, and I loved what they did with the Borg Queen and the Stasis Cube. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I like it, and the production and the design team is doing a great job. But I feel like this one really suffered in the writing department and could have used a stronger story editor.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, as you know, last week for episode 1, I gave it a 4 pip Captain Picard.
Yeah, I hope I'm not dragging you down.
The highest ranking we could get. Now, I've got to be honest, I didn't enjoy this episode quite as much as last episode, but having said that, I did think it was a lot of fun. I didn't dislike this episode. I just think it could have done with some different choices here and there. So I think I'm going to give it. I was thinking Commander, but the fact that we've talked about it more and sort of broken it down, I'm thinking maybe Lieutenant Commander. So, 2.5 pips as it is.
Okay.
This time. Because I didn't think it was as strong as last week, but very nearly a Commander. Still good,
Okay.
still up there. Intrigued to where it's gonna go, and I'm really looking forward to. This is the thing. I'm looking forward to the next episode. I didn't particularly like the cliffhanger that this one ended on because. It's like, okay, what are they going to do this time? Are we going to find that Rios has got a hologram of himself on the ship that's going to save the day or something? It's what they're going to do this time.
If that's what they do. Oh my gosh, you're going to win so big next week if that's what they do. Yeah.
But no, it's fun. I so far, I'm on board with this where they're going with it. I'm liking what they're trying. As I said, I could do with it being I could do with it stopping being so quippy and snarky. But as I said, that is the modern vernacular, and this show is, appealing to that demographic and whatever. So
I could do with a strong edit.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, I think I'm being harder on this episode than you are, but I also watched it 4 times. I've watched this every day since it came out.
Oh, right. Okay. I've only actually seen it the once because I was away this weekend. So I just see it last night, and I haven't had a chance to rewatch it yet. But
I keep watching this episode, right? And because
that says something.
It does say something, and every time I watch it, I'm seeing something else, And so I think there's a lot here, and it says something that I just wish it could, transcend. It's not garbage, it's decent, and I just wish it was excellent.
Yeah, right. I hear you. Okay, well, let's time to open a channel. Oh, wrong one.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I'm messing up with slides today. Sorry.
We're jumping around. That's all right.
Jumping around.
So that brings this episode to an end. I've been Pete Mealy. You can find me on Twitter at Too Many E's. You can tell me how wrong I am about Picard and Q. Keith, where can people find more of you and your work?
Yeah, you can go to, obviously you're on this channel already, so check out more of what we've got here on Home Media Minefield, as well as streams about shows and movies. I also talk about physical media. That's kind of where this whole channel started. So check out some of that. And if you want to see my creative work, I've got another YouTube channel called British Isles. That's EYLES, as in my last name. And I've got an anthology of some short films on there. Feedback welcome. So please check that out.
That's awesome. You can get in touch with the Let's See What's Out There podcast specifically by following us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at LSWOTcast. You can also contact us directly at lswotcast@gmail.com. Please do drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. And you can find this podcast if you want to listen to it audibly. Whoops. Well, I shouldn't have tried to make up words there, but you can find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and all good podcasting apps. And if you are listening to it on the podcast, please remember to share, like, or give us a brief review, as it all helps.
Absolutely. That just leaves us as well to thank William McLaughlin for our logo on this, and Neil Myers for our excellent theme tune. More of Neil's work can be found at neilmyersmusic.com. gmail.com. And you know what, Pete? We're actually under an hour for once. We're around the same time as the
That's
episode.
amazing.
So there you go. We've managed to keep it more concise this week. If you want to look at other work as well, recently we did a live stream talking about The Batman, which was also released last week. So please check that out on this channel. And coming tomorrow, I will be reviewing films from Fright Fest Glasgow, where I was this weekend. So that's going to drop on Tuesday, 15th of March. Or if you found us after the fact here, yes, please go and check that out for any film recommendations around horror films and Fright Fest. So please check that out.
That's great. I saw your photo with your Fright Fest mask on Instagram. It looked great.
There you go.
Looked like a fun time.
Absolutely. I know I'm trying to get a couple of guests. I know for sure William McLaughlin, who actually did our logo, is going to be joining me because he's based in Glasgow and he came to Fright Fest. But I might have some other guests as well, potentially. I don't know. It's literally tomorrow. So trying to get this material out. Do comment down below if you want us to run these as live streams or whether you're happy with the format that we're dropping them on currently. It depends whether you want that instant interaction or not. We'd be interested to know. Cool. Well, thanks, Pete, for joining us again from that side of the pond. And I'm looking forward to the next episode of Picard anyway. And
I am very much looking forward to an episode set in 2024 when they go watch a live podcast recording and let's see who's there. Yeah.
We've got the right title. So there you go. We will see you next time on Let's See What's Out There. Bye for now.